Hey everyone and welcome to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the Huda Beauty Nude palette. Now I haven't reviewed anything in the longest time. So when I bought this, I posted this on my Insta stories and so many of you guys requested for it, and then I did a poll and I got 100% yes on this palette. So I was like, let me just sit down and review my thoughts on this palette. Now I have tested this out for 3 days with different bases to really scrutinize everything about the palette and see what's best, what's not, and like just give you guys my thoughts and my honest opinion on this palette. So with this review, we will first go on with the packaging, then the price point, then the swatches, and then talking about the texture and the formulation of this palette, and last but definitely not the least, the tutorial on this palette. By the way, the tutorial is not this eye look. I've done another look which I have included almost all the textures of this palette. And at last, I'll just be giving you guys my honest opinion and will be telling you guys if this palette is worth it or not. So this is the outer packaging of this palette. This is the unicarton of this palette, and once you open this up, it's kind of white, and in between when the nude is written, it's written in pink. And once you open this palette, this is what it looks like. There's Huda's face on the cover of the palette, and the packaging is cardboard packaging, which I appreciate. I love cardboard packaging. I don't like plastic ones. So once you open this palette, this is what everything looks like. You get a protector sheet like this, which also is really good. Usually you just get those plastic ones. This is the same thing which is here. So like a little detailing matters at least a lot to me, because when you see packaging, like you want to feel good, so this is one of those feel good palettes packaging wise. So, and you get like a mirror here, as you guys can see, and it is a very good quality mirror. And once you open this palette, this is what you see. I will put a close-up because the lighting here is not doing the justice to this palette. Packaging wise, I would give this palette a 10 on 10. If I saw this palette in Sephora not knowing anything about makeup, I would definitely buy this one because it looks very, very pretty, very pleasing, and Huda always has like a top-notch packaging game. So yes, even she didn't compromise with this one at all. Packaging gets a 10 on 10 from me. It is a very beautiful package and you cannot deny that as well. I do want to say that even though this is a nude palette, when I saw this on Instagram, I was kind of disappointed because I expected something brown, which is not there in this palette. And Huda did mention this in her YouTube video, saying that this is her vision of nude palette. So if you agree with her vision, then get it. The formula is really good. I will talk about the formulas later on. And also I want to tell you guys something. The shades called Raw and Teddy look brown in the pan, but they come out pink, like in the family of pink on your eyes. So all the shades in this palette are from pink family. So yes, if you're buying this palette thinking there would be like one neutral brown, there is none. Also, whatever is written behind the unicarton is the same thing written behind the packaging of this as well. So now coming to the price point of this palette retails for $65 US. I got this from Dubai. My friend was there, so I asked her to get it for me. And Dubai price is 235 dirhams, which sums up to 5,065 rupees Indian rupee. So yes, the price point of this is quite high. Usually Huda Beauty is like her price point with all her products is usually high. It's not drugstore, it's not in between, it's here, but it's not even as high as Natasha Denona palettes. Her palettes are for $129 US. So yes, as I mentioned before, I got this palette for 5,062 rupees. But if I had to buy this from India, I would have to pay for shipping and customs and all, which would sum up to 6,500 or something. So if you have a friend who's going to US or Malaysia or even Dubai, you can get this from them. And also, if you are someone who don't want to take care of the customs and all, if you just want to like leave it to someone, you can go ahead and buy this from all the Instagram sellers. I will leave it in my description box below, like Cosmic Club, International Makeup, Beauty Bar Launch. They can get you this palette as well. If you do want to get this palette directly from Huda's website, I will leave that in the description box below as well. So here are all the swatches. By the way, all the swatches are just one swipe. I've just dunked my finger here and swatched just once, except this one shade which is teas, which is the last row, which you will be seeing it now. The first row, which is Bare, Crave, Play, Fantasy, Love Bite and Spanked. This is the second row, which is Lace, Daydream, Tickle, Excite, Infatuated and Kinky. And this is the third row of this palette, which is Concealed, Secret, Tease, Raw, Charmed and Teddy. So now moving from price point, let's talk about the textures and formulas. My favorite topic. Now she has like included so many textures, which is so interesting to talk about, to be honest. So on the back it is written the Nude eyeshadow palette, high pigmentation, easy to blend and tile free, 18 eyeshadows in 5 ready to layer textures, 10 buttery mattes, 4 reflective shadows and 2 pressed glitters and 1 pressed pearl and 1 concealer base. So you're getting so many varieties in this one palette. So yes, you're getting a lot of varieties, a lot of textures in this one palette. It's just not like one like mattes and shimmers. It's not that basic. It has so many things. So that's why I really like this package. That's why I really wanted this palette to to just test out like few more textures. So now when you open this palette up, I will give you guys a close-up because the lighting doesn't do the justice here. So now first, overall every texture of this palette is very buttery. It's very smooth, very easy to apply. Not one eyeshadow I find is rough at all. She has worked really well for her formulation overall. So now let's talk about mattes. Now there are 10 buttery mattes here, and all the mattes, you guys, have tried all the mattes and all the mattes blend like this. Like I take my eyeshadow brush with some mattes and when I go on my crease area, it's just like 1, 2, 3 and I'm done. It's that buttery. So even the darkest of the mattes, like Love Bite right here, blends like a dream. It blends like this. It takes legit seconds. It's very easy to work with. I think this palette is very beginner friendly as well because not a lot of people know how to blend properly. So I think in this palette is really great when it comes to, especially the mattes, when it comes to blending. But the one downside of the mattes are, however muted they look on the palette, they are not that muted when you put it on your eyes. Like the shade called Secret, which is the third row, this shade, it looks very muted. It looks like it's barely gonna come on the eyes. But when I actually started blending my eyes with this color, when I started off with this color, it was very pigmented. So however the shades are looking in this palette, they look quite mute, but when you apply on your eyes, they are 2 times more opacitized. That's not even a word, oh my god. But yeah, the opacity of the mattes are 2 times more than they look in the pan, especially all these mute shades like Secret, Tease, Tickle and all, and even Teddy. But the shades like Love Bite, which is dark purple, they come out, the opacity of the shade is same as they look in the pan. Like I think Spanked and Love Bite, both of them, they look the same on the eyes the way they look in the pan. So I think in a way it's one downside is because if someone takes the shade supposedly Secret thinking it's mute, it won't be mute at all. So that's one downside of the mattes, that's all. And also one downside about the mattes I feel is, let me just show you guys. So usually I blend my crease with this brush which is called Morphe M433. Okay, so I'm a content creator. I create videos almost every day. I film almost every day, or at least 4 times in a week. So I usually don't wash my brushes a lot because that takes too much time and my brushes will get spoiled very easily. So usually I just swirl it around and dip it into another shade, and this that's how it works, okay, for me. But these mattes are so pigmented. If supposedly I've taken the shade Love Bite and let's say 2 days afterwards I'm just cleaning my brush like this on the back of my hand, just like a quick swirl, and I'm taking the shade Secret, my lids will be the shade, the purple shade right here. So I feel like it's very pigmented. It's very hard to get off the brush, like just like this, usually what I do with my other eyeshadows. So in a way it's too pigmented to like work really hard with otherwise. But the mattes are really beautiful, let me just say that. So mattes, the texture, like the formulation of mattes, I would give this a 8 on 10, and otherwise I don't have a problem, honestly. It blends like a dream. It is really good. but I've told you guys my downside, so if you guys have problem with it, then figure it out. So now we have done with mattes. The other textures are 4 multi-reflective eyeshadows. Now again, there are like ups and downs with the texture of this. So the 4 reflective mattes are Fantasy, Charmed, Daydream and Crave. Now these are like, this is the first time you would see a formulation something like this. Like I've never seen something like that ever before in any other palettes. Now you would look like it looks like there are stone insides, but there are not. I was very scared to get, like when I saw this first on Trendmood, I was like, will that hurt my eyes? But no, it won't. It is very, very buttery, and the good side of it is like it's 4 multi-reflective, as it says. It's kind of iridescent, and like when you move around your eyes, like it will give that sheen, like you know, that highlighted eyes. It's just a very beautiful formula, and it looks very beautiful on the eyes. I really like it. Like the shimmer particles, like supposedly this color is just like one color like all the other colors, but when you apply it on your eyes, when you look very close by, you'll find 4 different color of shimmers, which is not too prominent, but when you move around your eyes, it looks very, very beautiful. But again, downside of it is that it doesn't apply very well with my brushes. Like when I take the most dense flat brush, it doesn't apply well with it. It only applies well with my fingers. And she did come out with 3 other brushes along with this palette. And she said like one of the brushes, which is called Flender Blender, I will leave it on the screen. That has like a silicone end which applies this much better, but I didn't want to spend $15 for a brush. That is too much. So I thought I will just apply it with my hands, with my fingers. But the thing is, when you want to go inner corner with this, like the formulation of the 4 multi-layer one, it's very, very difficult because like you can't reach there easily and be perfect with it. So I will just give you guys an example of what I'm talking. So I'm taking this shade called Fantasy. So I'm just taking it with my fingers, and this is what it looks like. You see how reflective it is? And now I'm taking the same thing with my brush. I'm like really digging in, okay? See, I'm like really digging in. And do you guys see, like there's a lot on my brush, and now I'm doing the same thing with my brush. But do you guys see the pigmentation? Like there's barely anything with my brush. So I just think that's kind of a con, is because I don't want to spend like $15 on like a brush. And yeah, I don't know, I find this bit inconvenient to work with. But otherwise the shades are very pretty, and they're very reflective, and they're very, very different. Again, I would give this kind of a texture an 8 on 10 is because I just find it inconvenient to go with my fingers here and work with it. Do you guys see how pigmented they are? Like I'm trying to take it off, but it's taking time. Usually eyeshadow comes off like this, but these are really pigmented, but in a very, very good way. And now talking about the glitters. Now the glitters are very, very pretty. It goes really smoothly on the eyes. They're very buttery. They're not chunky. Like chunky in sense, they're not very rough to work with. Few glitters are so rough to work with that I just like, no, sorry, thank you. And some are so buttery that they move around on my eyes like this, but this doesn't do that, and that's why I like the glitters, like the formula of glitters in this. But however, I think the 2 glitters we have here, which is Excited and Infatuated, they look kind of similar, but that was her vision, so yeah. And the second last formula of this palette, which is called Conceal. This is a concealer base. Now it is very good idea to add concealer, like the eyeshadow base in this palette, which is good. But the thing is, so many of the mattes and the shimmers have crazy fallout. Not crazy fallout like, you know, Subculture palette, but it has like a little bit of fallout, which is good, which I personally don't mind at all. But the fallout comes on the concealer, and like it's just a little messy. And the concealer itself, I don't like that as an eyeshadow primer, like an eyeshadow base, because when I applied these colors, like the mattes and everything else on the concealer here, by the end of the day, like you know, when you have the crease line and like your eyeshadow moves, like mattes will be somewhere, shimmers will be somewhere, so it didn't stick properly. So concealer wise, I don't like the concealer which is there in the palette, like the eyeshadow base. Like I'm not a big fan of it. And the concealer here is not very pigmented, which is really good, is because this will go on with almost every skin tone. So I would give this concealer a 5 on 10 if I'm in a hurry and I don't have anything else. So I can apply this. It's fine, but like I would prefer the Maybelline Fit Me as my concealer, like my eyeshadow base, over this one. And last but definitely not the least, which is the shade Kinky right here. Now this is a pressed pearl glitter, and oh my god, you guys, when I swatched this on my hand, my heart was already there. This kind of formula already had my heart, you know, like when I swatched it. It is so beautiful, and that is something I have on my eyes right now, all over my lids, and I just love it. Like, it looks so good. Like, this one shade alone looks so good. I didn't realize the lighting was a little bit rough. So this is what the shade looks like, and it is such a beautiful, formula. Like, I like the Huda's team like nailed with the shade and the formulation. If she comes out with a palette which consists only of all the pressed pearls, girl, I am buying it. It's so beautiful. Let me just swatch it for you guys. This is the shade, which is called Kinky right here, and do you see the pigmentation already on my fingers? This applies really well with my fingers, with my brushes. Like, let me just show you guys. So this is the brush I use this with, and do you guys see it? It's not as bad as the foam multi-reflective things, but it's decent, to be honest. Like, usually fingers give more pigmentation. For a brush, something like this is amazing. This shade, the formula is so beautiful. I wish they had more of the same formula in the palette, which is the pressed pearl. And this alone formula gets like a 10 on 10 from my side. I love it so much. Like, if you guys get this palette, just swatch this shade and tell me if you guys like it or not. Also, coming back to the 4 multi-reflective shades, the only one thing I would want to say is, if you do want to get into the inner corner or something, take a pencil brush, something like this, and go like take a lot of it and then apply it. It might help. It helped me. But yeah, you have to take a very precise brush like this. This is extremely dense brush, so that's why it works with it. But I do have to take a lot of product and layer it on to make it look very like right there, like very opacity is like right there kind of a thing. So yeah, but if you want to apply this 4 multi-reflective things all over your lids with your hands, with your fingers, I mean, it's gonna work just beautifully. So now I've already reviewed this palette. Now let's move on to tutorial. Now with this tutorial, you'll get a clear view on how the textures of this palette will work. After the tutorial, I've tried almost all the textures to show you guys how it looks like and give you guys a clear view on this palette. But I haven't used the glitters because I've already had used a lot and I couldn't use anything more. So I haven't used only the glitters, but I've used almost all the formula, like all the textures of this palette. And with the review and with the tutorial, I just want to tell you guys, as much as clear the tutorial is, at last part I used my old lashes and let's just say that didn't work out, and it just started looking very bad, especially in my lash line where the lashes are. So apologies for that, but other than that, the tutorial is good. And yes, if you guys want to see how they look on my eyes, how they go on my eyes, then let's move on to the tutorial. So I'm starting off with this shade called Secret. It's a very mute pink shade, and I just wanted to build in my transition colors. And as you guys could see, I was so impressed with the mattes. I really love the mattes. They blend in like a dream. And I'm doing the same thing on the other eye, and I'm so sorry for the low audio quality. I'm actually doing this with my phone. And the next shade I took was Tickle, and I'm just building my crease area with the pink tones. And I'm just showing you guys that there are no patches. And now I'm taking the shade called Spanked, and that is a very dark pink, and I'm just building the colors in again on the crease area. Now I'm going with the shade called Love Bite, and I'm taking that on my outer corners to define my eye even more. And I'll be going in with semi-cut crease, and I'm just blending that Love Bite. Now I just cut my crease with the Fit Me concealer in the shade 25, I believe. And I was so confused, and then I took this shade called Kinky, which is my favorite shade and favorite formula, and applied that on the fourth part of my semi-cut crease because I did want to go with another formula texture of the palette. After that, I went on with the shade called Daydream, and I was honestly finding it very hard to put that in my inner corner with my fingers. As I said before, this kind of texture goes really well only with your fingers or blender, but other than that, I was finding it very difficult. So I went on with a pencil brush and I was just building that color in till I was happy, and then I was just blending all the colors I did apply, and then I'm taking the shade Spanked and applied that on my lower waterline, and after that I just put on some lashes, and this is how my look turned out. So yes guys, now we are done with the packaging, the price point, the swatches, the scrutinizing of the formula and the textures, and the tutorial. Now my final verdict is that if you don't have these kind of colors in your kit, and if you're all about these kind of colors which are almost like pinks to berry, get this palette. You will love it. But other than that, if you're not all about eyeshadows, then just don't get it. Do I regret getting this palette? Not at all. I really enjoyed playing with the formulas of this. I created few looks with this palette which I really like. So yes guys, this was my review on this palette. I hope you guys found this review helpful, and if you guys would like to see me creating more looks with this palette, then you guys can follow me on all my social medias, which will be right here. And if you guys like this review, if you guys find this review helpful, and if you guys want more looks and more reviews in future, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon beside it, so you will be notified each time I upload a video. And yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.